Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 2021 My Driver Career Mode. Hope you're all having a great day today. We have the Spanish GP coming your way here in Catalonia. Not quite sure how to feel about this one coming into this race weekend because we've only ran at this racetrack one time of the 2 seasons we've completed because this track was replaced by the Chinese GP last season, and this was one of our worst races of the season in terms of pace back in our rookie season here in Catalonia. So I was hoping that, of course, our last season and so far with a good start this season, we can bring some good pace here into Spain. Now, obviously, last episode, unfortunately, in Portugal, we DNF'd from that race due to a part failure in our engine. So that was very unfortunate, and we were hoping to avoid that here this weekend in Spain. But nonetheless, it's still been a strong start to the season. We had a podium in Bahrain, a podium in Imola, and then, of course, we had the retirement last episode in Portugal. So hopefully today we can have some decent pace. Obviously, still going to need some luck to be in a podium position like it has taken in the first 2 races of the season in Bahrain and Imola, but you can never count anything out here when it comes to this F1 2021 game now. As practice was going very well, we beat the programs no problem. We had come through to do our little qualifying pace program, and we had set a strong lap on the qualifying program here with the soft compound tire here. Now, as the target for our team was to qualify around 7th place this weekend, and originally we beat that target no problem whatsoever. So you can see where we rounded out in free practice 1. Perez actually went P7 on the hard compound, so a pretty competitive lap there from the Red Bull driver right now as we head into the first qualifying session now here in Catalonia. You can see some overcast conditions here, no threats of rain, thank goodness, and so far we've been lucky this season. 4th GP weekend and no rain yet. There is no rain scheduled to be a threat in the GP either. So that was, of course, a nice little thing to have that in the back of my mind, that I'm not going to have to worry about some weather, of course, throwing a curveball at us now. As we go into Monaco in the next episode, it'll be interesting to see if we have some weather there. But there was a threat of rain towards the end of Imola, but it just didn't make the race stretch out long enough to where it actually became an issue. So we come through into qualifying 1, and we had set some decent laps. It wasn't the greatest laps I've ever put down in Catalonia, and we went P7 for the time being, and then I had to just play it safe and put in an insurance lap right at the end here, as I was only P13, only a couple spots safe. So we came out of the final turn, coming down the front straightaway, across the line, only went 1 spot better ahead of Tsunoda, but P12, and that lap was good enough to get us into Q3. And sure enough, I actually didn't need to run a second lap to get us actually in, but nonetheless, we still make it into Q2 here, where we would get underway. Now the sun was coming out, clouds moving out of here in Spain, and we were ready to put down some flyers here. Now Valtteri Bottas originally came through to put the fastest lap of the session down just moments after I had started my hot lap, and it was an okay lap. It was I was pretty confident with it, and we went P1 for the time being. But you can see Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, a bunch of drivers on the medium tire. Vettel just went and beat my lap, and I was a little bit too confident and decided not to run another lap because I was hoping I could make it into Q3, and I actually missed it by 1 position. So I made a huge mistake by deciding not to make a second lap, and we will now be out of Q3 for the second time this season, and we will start P11, which could actually be an advantage starting P11. I'd rather start P11 than P10, but let's head to the grid as we send it to Crofty and Anthony Davidson here in Spain.
The Spanish Grand Prix has been a permanent fixture on the Formula One calendar for over 30 years now, and for good reason. Do you remember Michael Schumacher's absolute dominance here in that rain-soaked Grand Prix in 1996? That day he took his first ever victory for Ferrari, and we've had many more iconic moments since. The Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya then, a high-speed 2.89-mile circuit which demands an efficient downforce package and bravery on the part of the driver, especially through the blind right of turn 9, which we might just see taken flat this weekend. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and Gasly, Vettel, the rookie, Tsunoda, and Lando Norris, Russell, Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, they've taken a grid penalty, and Giovinazzi, Verstappen, Stroll, Mick Schumacher, and Guan Yu Zhou. Ireland, and Nicholas Latifi. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
There you saw the starting grid, you saw some grid penalties. That goes and moves us up from P11 to P8 for the start of the Spanish GP. So now we also have the advantage of having a fresh set of tires and the preferred medium tire to make it a one-stop here in Spain, while everybody in front of us is going to have to do a two-stop race. So looking very, very good for us here today in Spain all of a sudden after these grid penalties have put us up inside the top 10. Everybody has to do a two-stop in front of us. We have to do a one-stop. This could get us a potential podium, and if we play our cards right and have enough pace, maybe even a Grand Prix win here in Spain. Now as we get ready to go lights out, it's going to be 5 red lights. Bottas, Hamilton on your front row here in Spain. It's lights out and we are underway in the Spanish GP. A good start for Valtteri Bottas, not a good start for Lewis Hamilton there. As you can see immediately, the Red Bull of Perez right in the slipstream behind the gearbox of Bottas is going to swing out to the left-hand side into turn 1, try to go around the outside. Leclerc goes around the outside of Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time Formula 1 world champion, as Perez doesn't quite have enough there to fight Bottas, but Leclerc has enough to fight Hamilton as he will go around the outside of the British driver, and Leclerc moves up into the final podium paying position there. As you see Sebastian Vettel battling it out with Carlos Sainz there, his former car, of course, there, that Vettel is battling against, as I sent one up the inside here of Lando Norris. Now I was under attack from him on the original start there, but we would be able to hold him off. As you see these 5 cars going out of the 2 Haas drivers of Stroll and Schumacher, Latifi in the Williams, and then the 2 Andretti drivers of Kalamila and Guan Yu Zhou, all scrapping it out here at the very back of the grid. Overall, a clean start for everybody, and including myself there. Perez just behind Bottas, of course, is looking very strong so far this season. Won recently there in Imola. Now as they come through the final sector, there's George Russell, makes a mistake though just behind the field, and he is going to save it there. A big save from the British driver, and Max Verstappen is going to go up a position there. He had a grid penalty, he had to start outside of the top 10, but a big moment there, and everybody keeps going in the right direction there. So other than that, a calm first lap here in Spain, and it stayed calm for a little bit here. We come through straight to lap 4 with DRS enabled. Now Sebastian Vettel trying to make a lunge up the inside of Pierre Gasly there. They're going to be wheel to wheel through turn 1 through turn 2, and Vettel might come out on top, but now Gasly's not going to give up too easily, but it's going to be Vettel coming out on top and moving up into the 5th position. Now as that was happening, I was right behind these two going at it with Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda now, as they're in this little side-by-side battle for the majority of the opening part of this 4th lap here now. And obviously I don't want to be here because they're making contact here. It's slowing me up, it's slowing themselves up, it's bringing Ocon into the mix there in the Alpine here now, as we're going to try and set up Ricciardo for a DRS pass here down the back straightaway. We're right behind him. We're going to swing to the left-hand side, lunge down into the left-hander, and we nearly collide with the back gearbox of Yuki Tsunoda. Thank goodness we did not run into him. We kept it clean there. Move up into now the 9th position. Then now to lap 6, we have DRS activated on Tsunoda. We're going to swing to the left-hand side. Not even a contest as we dive down into turn 1. We get past him, and he nearly runs into my gearbox like I nearly ran into his a few moments prior. But now to lap 7, here comes Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton into the pit lane. Could they try maybe an undercut? And now can Perez maybe get the undercut on Valtteri Bottas? That's really the question at this point here. As you can see, medium tires on for everybody, including our teammate Sebastian Vettel that comes into the pit lane as well. So they are now guaranteed into a 2-stop race. And then lap 9, here comes both Bottas and Perez. Soft to the medium compound for both of them. Bottas easily gets out in front of Sergio Perez right there, as now this put me out in front and Lando Norris in 2nd place because we were on the medium compound. We didn't have to pit for a little while yet. And this stretch right here to when I make my first pit stop is going to be very, very important, because that's going to be the deciding factor of if I'm going to have enough pace to maybe actually make the one-stop work and get a podium and maybe even win this GP. You see Esteban Ocon battling it side by side right now with Leclerc. Now as he makes the same mistake his teammate Russell did on the opening lap, spins the car out completely though. He is stopped, and now everybody still has to go around him, and Carlos Sainz would actually run into the back of Lance Stroll and the Haas in front of him. He would pick up some wing damage, and now Carlos Sainz is looking to come into the pit lane immediately here. A very, very rough GP so far for the Spaniard in his home GP now, so not what Carlos Sainz was looking for now. As you can see, just moments after this is happening, here comes Sebastian Vettel now making a move up the inside of Nicholas Latifi there, and he is going to move back up into the points paying positions, and then up ahead of them, we got a battle between, I believe it's Leclerc and again Hamilton. Yes, there you see the British driver against Charles Leclerc right there, and sure enough, Hamilton will come out on top of that instead of Leclerc this time, so Hamilton at least got that spot finally. It took him a little bit here, but I was continuing to lead this race over Lando Norris, who was closing the gap on me, unfortunately. Obviously, the McLaren just downright faster than the Aston Martin at this point in the season, but Lando pitted significantly earlier than I did, so that put Bottas into second place, and he was closing in, of course, in that Mercedes power. It was now less than 10 seconds between us both here. Now, as I'm just trying to manage the gap the best I can. Now, as we had a big moment right here, though, on lap 17, I had to take the other configuration of the track here to make sure I didn't destroy my car, and thank goodness we somehow kept it going in the right direction, and I decided that was my call right there to the pit lane. I said, you know what, I gotta pit and put on the fresh set of hard tires, and this is gonna be the one and only pit stop, hopefully, for us today in the Spain GP. Here comes Bottas right now, so the question is, where are we going to come out behind him within a pit stop, hopefully by the time he comes into the pit lane next time, because he's on a 2-stop, like I said, and fortunately for us, even though Lando did quite an undercut on us, we actually were still able to comfortably get out in front of him, so that's huge, because now we have fresher tires than him. Although he has that McLaren speed, I think we have a good opportunity now in this specific situation to hold him off, and then it wasn't long until Leclerc and Vettel would come into the pit lane here on lap 21. And I would, of course, cycle through to pass them here. We were up into now 4th place, and Hamilton, Perez, Bottas, they still have to pit. It's looking great for us. We are in position to potentially win this GP by missing Q3. There's no way. Just moments after I'm talking about us maybe being in position to win this GP, Jeff comes up, he says, hey, there's an issue potentially here. We're trying to manage it. I was pretty confident we're not going to retire 2 races in a row. I've never had that happen in the F1 game, so I wasn't too concerned. Up ahead of us, Sainz actually had a bit of a moment, but he kept his car going straight, and he's a lap down from this GP here in Spain. Now just hoping, of course, that nothing goes wrong with the car at this point, and there goes the engine. We are going to be out 2 GPs in a row in position to potentially win in Spain. It's going to end in heartbreaking fashion here now, as I cannot believe this. You cannot script what is happening here in these last 2 GPs of this F1 series for us. Unbelievable. 2 GPs to start the season, we get the podium, and then the last 2 we DNF with a mechanical failure. I don't know what to say.
A real team effort which has paid off in Spain. A great victory here at the Spanish Grand Prix. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
Man, that one hurt a lot more than the Portugal GP retirement, because this time we had the strategy to potentially win the race. It maybe would have been a 2nd or 3rd, but you can see Lando on the 1-stop ended up P2, and we were ahead of Lando. So we would have for sure gotten 2nd if we hadn't made a mistake or anything. So I cannot believe it. I don't understand. We have the best reliability in F1 with Aston Martin, and it's clearly showing, as you can tell there, as we are tied with Vettel there in 5th in the F1 standings. So very, very disappointing way to end this episode. 2 in a row we've had a mechanical failure. After the GP, I'm looking at doing some upgrades, but we have completely upgraded the car to what we're allowed to. So Spec 3 is not unlocked yet with our Aston Martin, and the team does that by themselves, so there's nothing I can do about it. So we are stuck right where we are at with the R&D until the team unlocks Spec 3 for us. So we cannot make any more improvements from this point on until that gets unlocked. So we have to hope that happens soon, so we don't don't fall too far behind with all the progress we made in the off season. Otherwise, it just goes right in the garbage. So what a weird episode ending. It sucks, but if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time of your day to watch this episode and other ones on the channel. And of course, thank you to the members. You'll be at the end of this episode. Perez leads the standings after 4 races as we head into the crown jewel race of the season in the next episode in Monaco. I'll see you guys then. Have a great day, everybody.